RTI's line of KP keypads are simple in-wall control solutions that give users quick access to music, lighting, shades, and more at the touch of a button. Available in 2, 4, and 8-button versions, these customizable keypads can be used in any market. In this course, we're going to review the features of the KP family and included accessories, how to program a few scenarios in Integration Designer, and finally, how to engrave them using the free included LaserShark certificate with RTI's LaserShark software. Let's begin. Let's talk about some of the features of the KP family of keypads. Whether you're using the 2, 4, or 8 buttons, they provide quick access to control functions such as lights, shades, music, and other types of source selections. In-wall flush mount control with a 1-gang form factor which will fit into any kind of project. These are PoE powered and can communicate with a compatible RTI processor over Ethernet. Two-way control status feedback using a unique color backlight option. Up to 16 colors can be used to configure two-way feedback. Ambient light sensor will adjust the backlight brightness automatically depending on the ambient level. And custom engraved keypad buttons using RTI's LaserShark service. A free engraving certificate is included. Let's talk about some of the features that are included with the KP keypad. First, you get the KP 2, 4, or 8 button in-wall controller with black and white keypad frames. You also get black and white keycap sets, captive screws, and free LaserShark engraving in the form of a certificate. Let's talk about the different markets you can get into with the KP family of keypads. Lighting control. Lighting control can be used with any lighting control system. You can mix and match lighting systems. And now you have an inexpensive way of controlling lights, and even a more economical solution than a dedicated lighting controller keypad option. Conference rooms. Since these fit into any kind of market, you could use them in conference rooms to control lighting, shades, or activities. Music selections can be used in a variety of different ways. Access playlists, song titles, or just have regular transport keys and turning on and off a zone. Entrance and exits for that peace of mind and security. I have one mounted next to my bed, so at night I can arm my system quickly, close garage doors, and handle those peace of mind options. Hospitality markets also, and media rooms for source selection, music selection, and others. Let's program Integration Designer next. Let's open Integration Designer and program a couple of scenarios with the KP family of products. I've got a couple of different rooms here with different reasons to use the KP family keypad. Let's start with a normal primary bedroom. In this room, I'm going to use a KP8 to program some lighting scenes. Now I've added my Lutron Leap driver, but I do have to add all the lighting loads. So I'm going to set the IP address, and I'm going to select Connect to Lutron processor. Now I'm going to press the pairing button on my Lutron Leap processor. Once the authentication is successful, all the lighting loads in products and other devices will pull in to the driver. Let's go back to the Add Workspace, and now you'll see in the Lutron Leap section, all of our lighting loads are now populated. Shades will also be included. Now for the primary bedroom or main bedroom, I'm going to add all these lighting loads to my main bedroom. I'm going to start with my main bedroom ceiling light. Then I'm going to add my chandelier, followed by my sconces. Last, I'm going to select my keypad and add that to the primary bedroom. Notice I'm not creating any pages yet, and my KP doesn't exist in the family yet. Now these areas, main bedroom left and right, do not have to be added. They're simply the areas where the product is installed. Once you're done, let's add a keypad now to the primary bedroom. I'm going to select controllers, and I'm going to look for KP. here is our KP2, 4, and 8 button keypads. I'm going to select the KP8. Now you could use any keypad, just are limited to the amount of buttons. I'm going to add that to my primary bedroom. Now, when it comes to selecting pages, you really only need one page in most scenarios. I'm going to go into other scenarios where you could use multiple pages, but in this case, I'm going to just add a page to my keypad for my Lutron system. So I'm going to uncheck every page except for my main bedroom keypad on my KP controller. Let's call this KP8 primary bedroom, and let's add device. Let's click close. Now your KP8 will pop up and your page will pop up, and you can see here on my KP8, it's actually located on my keypad source. So I only have one page on my KP8, and that's where the start page will be. You could designate any start page, whether if you have multiple pages, by right-clicking on the source in the workspace and selecting Home Page. Now that's been designated as my official start page. However, if you only have one page, that's not necessary. Now that you have your KP8 in, we're going to use this to control some lighting scenes and some individual product. So what I'm going to do first is go to my keypad properties. I'm going to select the KP8 keypad, and I'm going to select properties. Now in the properties, you can control the power downtime, backlight levels, whether they're active or idle conditions, which is important when you're programming bedrooms. You can configure a static network on the wired network tab, or you can use DHCP. Key labels, that is a really important tab. We're going to configure some labels for our keypads. Now, there's just some arbitrary labels that are added here. It might not fit exactly to your function, but since we're engraving these, and since the client is not going to be able to see these actual scenes or functions, we don't really need to worry about what they are in terms of what the client sees. We're going to wind up engraving this, but we should put something that makes sense. So in our first example here, we're going to program scenes on our controller. Now, instead of entering the actual scenes, which consist of welcome, evening, bedtime, reading, and goodbye, I'm just going to enter in scene 1 through 5. So I'm going to select scene 1 on button 1. Scene 2, I could just hit the letter S, and it will take me down to all the S labels. Scene 2. Let's select scene 3. Scene 4, and scene 5. Since I don't have actual scenes that fit my project in these labels that are pre-built into the software, I'll just enter in placeholders so I know what to program on that button. Now for the remaining buttons, these are going to control our ceiling lights, our chandelier, and our sconces. So let's label button 6 as I scroll down to C, ceiling for ceiling lights or hi-hats. Button 7, that's going to be used for a chandelier. Since I don't have a chandelier, I'm going to label this button, at least temporary, just lights. And for the last button, I'm going to use this to turn on and off my sconces. So I'm going to hit the letter S and select sconce. And that will be good placeholders. Now, if I click OK, you'll notice that these will get put on your buttons so you know what to program on them. Now, programming buttons is really easy if your keypad page is on a specific source. Now, if I tag some of these buttons, they may assign properly to the function I need. But I'm not quite done yet, because on this page, I want to determine what happens when any of these scenes are active, or if my ceiling lights, chandelier, or sconce light is on. So the way to do that is to use color state, reverse state feedback. Now we all know reverse state happens when a button is pressed and it's just temporary, but we can force a reverse state also when one of these conditions is true, such as scene 1 being active, or any of the other scenes, or any of the lighting loads. So I'm going to right-click on my page, and I'm going to select Page Properties. This is going to give me a color scheme for my keypad. And now I could decide what I want my normal color and active color to be. Now we give you 16 different colors. We also give you an unchanged function and an off function. If you select off, no color will be sent to the keypad. So if your keypad is off, you might want to turn it off so that your client is not looking at a colorful keypad. It's up to you. So I'm going to program a color scheme for my primary bedroom in this system here. Now for my normal state, for my first button, I'm going to go with kind of like an orange color because my bedroom is kind of a darker orange color. And now for my active color, I'm going to select a color that complements that when the scene or lighting load is active. So I'm going to go with my green scene. So orange and green. And rather have to program the rest of these buttons, I could copy scene 1 settings to all keys. Let's go ahead and do that. And now all my buttons can be made to be orange on the normal color. When I press it, it will show the active color and it will stay on the active color as long as that scene is true. Now you can make all these buttons different colors, but in a situation like a primary bedroom, I'm going to stick to having a consistent look. Let's click OK. Now that our reverse state color schemes have been figured out in our normal state, of course, let's program these buttons. Now, because I'm on the main bedroom keypad source, and since this page is located on a source that has some programming attached to it, let's go to our tag browser, and from the drop-down, let's select Lutron Leap driver tags. Now I can select from any of these tags and simply drag and drop them to my button. Now the standard tag for a scene keypad is button 1 through 5, and you've got up and down using 18 and 19. I'm going to drag button 1 to scene 1. That will not only tag it, but it will program the welcome scene that we programmed in the Lutron system, and it will also program reverse state feedback when that scene is true. When that LED state is on, that scene must be activated. Let's go ahead and program the rest by dragging button 2, 3, 4, and 5 over to the scene buttons. So you'll see here if I click on these, this has been programmed with the evening scene and reverse state. This has been programmed with my bedtime scene and a reverse state, so we could activate that green color. And this has been updated with my reading scene and my goodbye scene. Pretty easy. Only a couple of minutes to program. Now for our ceiling lights, our chandelier and our sconces, let's give them some programming as well. For my ceiling lights, I'm just going to give this a tag called ceiling. And for my chandelier, I'm going to call that chandelier. And for my sconces, we'll call it sconces or sconce. Okay? Now that you have a tag, we could program some values. For my ceiling light, I'm going to open up my macros and I'm going to click source and I'm going to program a macro to toggle my ceiling lights on and off. Head over to your macro steps, drag in a command, select the Lutron Leap driver, and now for your function, let's select our bedroom ceiling light, and we'll use the switch command, which will toggle it on, off, or toggle. We'll select a toggle. Well, we're not done yet. We need to program some reverse state when that switch is on so that we can see that green status. So let's select the source level variable, and next to reversed, let's select our on state for our main bedroom ceiling lights. Pretty easy. Let's do the same for our chandelier. I'll copy the command here to make it a little easier. Just copy that ceiling light over to our chandelier, paste it, and then just change this to our main bedroom chandelier switch, and we'll toggle that as well. Let's program that reverse state so we can see that color light up when that chandelier is on. And now let's do the same thing finally with our sconces. Let's paste in that command. Let's change this to our sconce switch and toggle. And let's program a reverse state to see that color when that sconce's lights are on. Fantastic. That's how easy it is to program this software. Now we still have to engrave these. We'll save that for the end. We'll program this keypad, but I want to go over a couple of other scenarios where you could program a KP keypad. Let's do a commercial environment, which is kind of my favorite use for these. I'm going to click on my conference room. Now in my conference room, I happen to have a ConferX driver. If you're not familiar with the AV Pro ConferX system, the ConferX is a 4x2, matrix switcher, and it allows you to control up to 4 inputs, 2 outputs, one being HD-Base-T, the other being HDMI, and it's great for conference rooms where you need switching. It even has a mic routing feature. So great little option here if you're doing a commercial conference room environment or huddle space. So we're going to use this ConferX. We're going to use the CX42-AUHD, and we're going to program these 4 inputs. So let's label these according to what they're doing. We're only using 3. The first one is going to be our meeting. So we'll enter in meeting, whatever that does. Input 2, that's going to be our video conference. And input 3, well, that's going to be our BYOD, bring your own device. So show the wireless properties of the conference room on the display. Input 4 we're not using. Now, as far as the outputs, we're going to use the first HD-Base-T output, and the second one is HDMI, but we're going to just label this our conference room. We could send the other one to another room or to another display in our conference room if we have multiple displays, just like a 2x4 matrix switcher. 4x2, excuse me. So what we're going to do now is go and add our keypad now that we have our ConferX. So I'm going to go to our controllers, search for KP. You'll see the product family. Let's this time select the KP4, okay? And this time we're going to add that to our conference room. Click Next. Now when it comes to creating pages, we can create a page on our ConferX or just a home page. I'm going to go for the ConferX page. That's way we only need 1 page for this, okay? Now, what if we wanted to do multiple pages? What's the benefit of having multiple pages? Obviously, you only have 4 buttons, but there's an advantage to doing pages. Let me show you that. Instead of selecting the ConferX page as a 1 page, let's add a home page. And let's call this KP4 Conference Room. Now, I'm not only going to add a home page, I'm going to add multiple pages. Let's click Add Device first so I can show you what I'm going to do here. Now, this takes us to our page on our home page. Now, our home page is going to have 4 buttons. Let's get that out of the way. Let's click Properties, and let's make sure the 4 buttons selected and power downtime is right, and our backlight and so on. But I'm going to head over to Key Labels, and I'm going to label these functions. The first function on top is going to turn off the room. So let's call this All Off. The second, third, and fourth functions are going to set our meeting, video conference, and BYOD. So let's label the second one Meeting. Now, if you don't have a meeting, which I don't have, you could label this button yourself by just typing in some criteria. It'll show up in red, but it will still label the button for you once we click OK. Let's enable the second one. I don't have a video conference, so I'm going to go down and I'm going to set this to video. I'm not worried about these names. They're just there for me, the programmer, to understand what I need to program. The client is going to see my engravements, okay? Now, the fourth one's going to be BYOD. I don't have that either, so I'm just going to type in BYOD. And now that I have my labels, I'm going to click OK. Now, I want to do something a little different with this keypad, showing you another scenario. We know that we have a normal state and an active state. And an active state will be active if you press a button. It'll show up, as soon as the client presses the button, and it will stick on that if you program a reverse state and that variable you program is true. But what if I want to do something a little different here? Because the inputs are going to highlight even when the device is off. So I don't want to do all that stuff. I don't want to just have a normal and active state. I want to also have a selected state. So 3 different color states. A state when the client presses it, a state when the client sees it normally, and a state when the client presses it for an instant. So let's do that again. A state for when the client normally sees the button, a state when he presses it, at least for an instant, and a state where it's going to stick on if any of these 4 are true. Now, how do you do that? Because you don't have the ability to do that here, because over here in our page, we only have the ability to do 1 normal and 1 active per button. But I want to do something a little different here. First thing I'm going to do is label these buttons by tagging them. So let's call this button all off. Now for the other buttons, I could use the tags built into the ConferX to label them. I'm going to go to my ConferX driver now in my tag browser. Let's see if we have one for input 1. Looks like we do. Here are our inputs. I'm going to drag the input for the meeting over to the meeting one, so I don't have to tag it. Looks like it didn't program anything, but at least I have a normal tag. Let's bring the one for video conference over to there, and let's bring BYOD over to that one. Now, when it comes to off, this device doesn't have an off button, so it's always on and ready for action. So I'm going to have to program this all off to be something different. But I want this to show different colors per item, and I want to do this without any feedback. So let's see how this works. On the home selection, I'm just going to program what this looks like normally before any button is pressed. So it'll show up the first time you load up. Let's right-click and go to the page properties. So I want this keypad, since it's a conference room, I have to be a little more responsible with my colors. So I'm going to go with sort of a light blue color. Let's do that. And when the client presses this button, what will it look like when he actually presses it? Well, we'll make it light up let's go with a white color. We'll keep it plain for the commercial context. Okay? Now I'm going to copy all these buttons to my other scenes. Now, so on this page, when you load up the system, this is what you'll see. You'll see all light blue buttons, and when you press any of them, they're going to go to white, but I only want that white one for when you press the button, not to stay on it if any of these all off meeting or video or BYOD is true. So how do I do that? Well, I don't want to use feedback because then it's going to fall back on the reverse state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this home page. We'll call the first page all off. And I'm going to duplicate that page, and I'm going to call this second page meeting. And then I'm going to duplicate that and call our last page, video conference, video, and we'll call the last page BYOD. Now I've got a page for each button, okay? And now all of these are tagged the same on every page. Let's double check. Yes, they all have the same tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my home page and assign commands and page jumps. So just bear with me. It'll make sense after I'm done. For the all off, I don't have an all off button, but I want this to jump to the home page in the conference room and to the all off page, which is going to have a different color scheme than others. Then if they jump to meeting, I'm going to do a couple of things here. First, I'm going to program a macro here to switch my ConferX. Let's select the ConferX and let's select the switch output mode. Let's set the meeting on the conference room. That's good. But I also want a page jump to my meeting on my homepage. Okay? Let's do the same with the video. For the video now, I'm going to open up the macro commands. Let's copy this function. It makes it a little easier. Copy. Let's paste it and change it to video. Okay? That'll be my video conference. And I'm going to jump to my home page, but to my page for the video conference. And then finally, my BYOD. Let's open up the macro steps. Let's paste that in, BYOD, and let's jump to the BYOD page. So, now where is this going? Why is there all these pages? I don't even need, because I want to provide feedback without having to program reverse state. Or maybe I don't have reverse state. I do in this case, but what if you want to fake some feedback? Well, when he's on the home page, this is what the color scheme is going to look like. Every button is going to be light blue, and when you press, let's say, meeting, it's going to light up white, at least until you let go of the button. But on the meeting page, I'm going to go to those page properties, and I'm going to make this a different color. I'm going to make this stay now on green when that meeting page is active or when you jump to it. The rest will all be the same. Then I'm going to go to the video page properties, and I'm going to make the video green when the video is active. And finally, BYOD. But what about all off? When he selects all off, it's going to jump to all off. Let's make this page, let's make the all off red when the person selects on this page. So what's going to happen now? You're going to go to this page when you load up the system. Everything is going to be light blue on the normal state. And so if you press any of these functions, at least for a second, it's going to light up white. So if I select meeting, it's going to light up white. But then when it gets to my meeting page, it's going to show green. So that's really cool. Now you could make these the same if you want, just so if he presses it again, it doesn't show a reverse state, or you could leave it on white. Now, if he's on that meeting page, right, and now he decides to go to the video conference, well, if he hits the video conference, it's going to be normally blue. It's going to turn white for a second. But when he lands on the video page, it's going to turn green. And now the same thing with BYOD. That will land on green. And then when he hits all off on the keypad, whether he's on BYOD or any other page, it's going to jump to all off, which looks like this, a red normal color. The rest will be light blue. So that's how you can program a normal state, an active state, and a selected state. 3 different states. It's also great if you don't have feedback and you want to provide feedback. And of course, it's great in this case because we don't want to have all off highlighted and another one when the system is off, which it will. Okay? So this is a great way to get around stuff like that. So we do have to engrave these, and we'll take care of that last. Okay? Now, let's do one more scenario. This one we'll have a little bit of fun with, okay? We're going to do a game room, okay? Well, we called it a media room, but let's rename this to game room, okay? Now, game rooms are fun, right? And we do have music in this game room, and we're going to program some commands to control our music streamer, okay? So we've got a Sonos system in here. So we're going to go to the Add Workspace item, and we're going to select our KP8 again. I didn't program the 2, but only 2 buttons. great for shades open and close or simple rooms. So I'm going to select the KP8 again and go to the game room with that. Now, when it comes to this, I'm going to just create a page on my Sonos controller. That way I don't have to program anything manually, at least a lot of things, okay? Let's click the controller name field and call this Game Room and select Add Device. Now I'm going to have fun with this one. First, let's go to the properties and program the key labels. Now I'm going to use this again to control the Sonos. So the first one's going to be for the play command. So I'm going to go down, and on top, we give you some extra functions here. We give you play, transport functions, and some up, downs, and stuff like that. Let's go with the play command for that. The second button will be pause. So we'll select the pause button. These two buttons will be skip back and skip forward. So we can do that here. Skip back and skip forward. So we're just labeling our buttons. Now this button is going to be a cool button that will play a playlist of our choice. It could be our favorite playlist, but we have to know which playlist it is in the order of the item list. But we'll talk about that a little later. Since this is for playlists, I'm going to just look for the word play here. There's a regular function and a function in the button, the drop down. Let's call it play. It'll be a playlist, a specific one. Now the rest of the commands are going to control the volume in the room. So whatever your volume is, this will be a mute function. Let's head down to the M's, mute. For this one, let's hit the V, head down to the V commands, volume down. And this one, volume up. Now that we have our labels, let's click OK and see how these look. That looks good to me. Now let's tag these. Now for tagging these, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to go to the tag browser, and since we're on the Sonos device, I'm going to look at all the Sonos driver tags and drag and drop these. And since a lot of these contain macros, variables, or text feedback or text tags, we're going to drag in the appropriate one. Since these are in alphabetical order, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, head down to play. There's our play command. Looks like there's a macro and variable associated to it. And I'm just going to drag that over. Play. And it will program a command and some feedback. Nice. Let's go to pause and drag and drop the pause. So I'm going to look for a pause tag and drag it in. Skip back and skip forward. I'm going to head down to the bottom for those. Here they are right here. Skip back. There it goes, programmed. And skip forward. And that should be programmed too. Now for the playlist command. Now, there's actually a tag for this. Okay, we could change it to whatever we want it to do. But if you scroll up to the P's, let's go up a little further, you're going to see a tag called playlist. You're also going to see one called playlist EX, meaning playlist extended options. So what happens if we drag the playlist over? It'll tag it playlist and give us the ability to select a playlist from the item list. Now, these are going to be start from 0 and you can go up. So 0 would be the first entry in the playlist. 1 would be the second. 3 would be the third. So if you're programming the fourth value, the fourth one in the item list, you're going to have to select 3 and so on and so forth. So you're going to select your playlist that you want to launch from that button. Maybe your favorite playlist, something your family hopefully agrees on. Okay. Now there's another set of commands in the playlist EX. Let me drag that in and show you what that does. I'm going to drag that in, and this one allows you to do the playlist. And again, we can do 0 and as many as we want. We can select whichever playlist we want in the list, or let's make that 0 again, or we can replace whatever's playing, append to the queue, insert to the queue, or insert it next. So it gives you a couple of extra options. I'm just going to replace the queue, and it will begin playing the first playlist in my Sonos playlists. Now for mute, I'm just going to tag these. Mute, and it will program my volume, whatever I set in that room. Volume down. Whatever you set as the room's audio source will be programmed, and volume up. Great. Now, as far as the colors situation goes with these, let's have a little more fun with this since it's a game room. Since the game room is probably showing all these different colors, let's dress this up, this page. Let's go to the page properties and let's make these look pretty cool. For the first button, I'm going to make this look normally magenta. And when the client selects it, it's going to select a yellow color. Let's copy that all to the buttons just so we have a basis. For the second one, maybe I'll make this cyan and make this green. Maybe I'll make this magenta or make this light green and make this red. And maybe I'll skip forward and skip back the same. So light green and red. I don't like red. Let's do cream. Okay. So you get the idea. We'll really go crazy. Our playlist button, well, we'll make that our blue button, and we'll make that light up a white color. For these, for mute, volume, and volume up, I'm going to make these a little bit more consistent since they have the same functionality. Let's make them pink. Pink and pink. And when you select them, it turns to, let's do, which one we haven't done? It's orange. Let's do some orange. Why not? So you can pick whatever colors you want. Now, if I click OK, I've got a keypad that looks pretty crazy, but that's acceptable in a game room. That's what my normal states will look like. And when I press them, it will stay on these for play and pause. The rest, it'll just light up for a split second. Light green normally, but when I skip back, it'll light up cream just for a second until I let go. Playlist, it'll just light up white. I don't think that playlist has a reverse state. No. So that's cool. Unless I want to create a page for that playlist, then I can always do that. I could always duplicate this page, call it playlist, and make this light up a different color when I'm on that page. So it looks like a reverse state. Now that we're done programming the keypad, you can see how easy that is. 3 keypads in a matter of no time. And customers are going to love these. Let's head over now to our LaserShark software. So I'm going to go to my start menu and I'm just going to type in LaserShark. This is a separate download on the RTI website. Okay, so you're definitely going to want to check this out. Now, in the LaserShark software, I'm already ready for action. When I click Add, it's going to ask me which controller do I want to create engravings for. Now, we have multiple controllers that you can do this with, but the KP family of keypads has a free engraving certificate included. So let's go with the 8-button keypad. We'll do our first one, the one we did with the lighting scenes. And now we have a form factor here. Now, all the real detail happens here on the right side. First, remember, the keypad comes with a color change kit. So I could change this to white or black. It's up to you, whatever one you want to go with. I'm going to leave these on white for now. You could pick a quantity. Maybe you want to back up. Please note that we only give you 1 engraving certificate, but you could buy traditional ones. Now, as far as what appears on these lists, this first one is a scene called Welcome. I could go to text and just type in Welcome. And I could select a font. I could go with something a little more narrow, maybe change the size to fit the button a little bit better. Okay, so I have that. I can make it bold, make that true. I can make it italic if I want. I don't know if I like that, but you can. You can underline it. You can auto wrap the button, and that specifies whether or not the text should wrap on the button itself. So if you don't auto wrap the button and you give us something like this, it's going to get cut off. So make sure you select auto wrap on your functions if they wrap. Okay, so since this wraps, you're going to want to set auto wrap to true. Okay, but I'll leave this on a smaller size. Okay, you could do alignments, whether horizontal or vertical. So if I want to put this on the bottom, I could do that, or top, or whatever else. Now, there's a couple of other things you could do here. but we'll get into those a little bit later. As far as your dealer information, make sure you enter all of this in correctly, including your address information, because we're going to mail you within 10 business days, or 10 days, I should say, the LaserShark. It comes much faster, but let's assume 5 business days, okay? And you're going to put in all your name and the order code. That order code will appear on your LaserShark certificate. And now, once you do that, you're ready to go. Now, in addition to text, there's something else you could do. You can do images. Now, you can create your own images and then navigate to wherever you store images, okay? But I'm going to show you a better way to do this. On Blackman Signature Designs website, I'm going to pull up a website, and I'm going to go to blackmancustoms.com. This is a website that has all graphics for RTI, templates and assets and everything else. If you click on RTI and scroll down a little bit, you're going to get the LaserShark icon collection. And if you click this, you're going to be able to download an engraving pack for LaserShark. And now you'll have all the graphics you need for $29.99. Easy, 200 icons in total that you can use for your projects. Now, I went and bought this. So if I go to my desktop here and show you what I've got the LaserShark icons here. I've got brands. These are just specific brands like Alexa and Sony and BrightSign and whatever else you're doing. I also have a directory called miscellaneous. These are all just miscellaneous icons. A lot of them will be found here. Or I've got a room and zones icons as well. So rooms and zones. So if you're doing some specific room stuff, you could have that, okay? So rather than have to go through all these icons, I've put the ones I need in a specific directory, which I recommend you doing. So if I select image, the image one, and now navigate to where I have those icons, let's pretend I didn't go there yet, select icons. Now I have all the icons I need for this project. First thing I'm going to do is look for my welcome screen, my welcome scene. Here it is right here. There's my welcome scene button, okay? Then for the second button, well, that's going to be used for my evening scene. So I'm going to change this to image, search for my reading scene. So I'm going to look for the reading scene and grab it right here. Then I'm going to go look for another one. Let's change this to image. And now I'm going to look for my bedtime scene. Click the button, navigate to where you store it. There we go. There's my bedtime scene. Then I'm going to do what other scenes do I have? A bedtime reading, welcome, evening scene. Let's do an evening scene, and that'll be my all off scene, or goodbye, I should say. So let's get our goodbye in. There it is. Okay. Now, as far as volume down, volume up, down, and mute, let's go for those as well. Let's see what I could find. Image. Scroll down a little bit. So that's going to be our mute. We'll grab that one. This is going to be volume down. And this is going to be our volume up. Now, you also can create your own buttons as well. If you look at one of these icons, let's just take a quick look. These are, let's see, if I hover over them, it should tell us, I think it's 432 by, let's hover over this one, 432 by 362. So you can create your own icons if you want, and that could be something you can do. And you can mix and match icons with particular text. I don't think I have any here, but there might be some within the regular LaserShark. Let's see. Yeah, like this all off button, this all on as a symbol, and some graphics. So you can create that as well. Okay, now what do you do when you're done? Let's see what happens if I change this color kit to black. It will reverse illuminate the buttons. Pretty cool. Now when you're done and you're ready to roll, you're going to just put in your entry code. I don't have a valid one. And you're going to click export order. And that's going to give you the instructions on who you submit that file to. I think it's engravings at either RTI or avpro.com. So we'll just submit that and it will tell you. And it's as simple as that. So it looks like the engraving takes longer to program than the actual buttons do in Integration Designer. Tough decisions, but a lot of fun to do. And you could use these for any environment you want. Now you can go and add another keypad. I could go and add my 4 button, and so on and so forth. So that is the KP family of keypads. Amazing keypads. Best of all, they include free custom engraving through RTI's LaserShark. Hope you enjoyed the webinar. We'll see you next time.